Welcome to the show. I'm Matty Marshall. I got Tyler Harmon here on today to discuss the three-man championship, the world championship that's going down in Orlando, Florida at Disney's Wild World of Sports. 4 teams enter. 1 team is going to emerge as the champion, and Tyler Harmon happens to be on one of those teams. Tyler Harmon also happens to be, I think at this point in time, the longest-running pro player out there. Guy's been playing pro paintball since he's 12. He's the host of the Play the Game podcast. He's been an all-star for as long as I can remember. So figured he'd be a really good guest here to talk about that three-man championship. And I'll also talk about, how things are kind of set as we are moving into the 4th event. We're going to get to that after we talk about the three-man. Some, big move has been made, and it's getting interesting as it always is in the Pro Paintball League. So without any further ado, let's bring in Tyler, and we're going to have this conversation about this big three-man battle that's going to be going down on ESPN2 on August 1st. So mark your calendars for that. It's going to be a live show from 10 a.m. Eastern time to 11. And very much looking forward to this one, as we had a pretty good three-man demo at the last event, and X Factor took that one. So yeah, looking forward to getting Tyler's thoughts here on this this big fight that's going to go down, and also, kind of get his thoughts on Alex Goldman moving over to Damage, and thoughts on where Impact is sitting right now. They made a lot of moves in the offseason. Some changes has happened there. So yeah, let's try to bring in Tyler here.
Tyler, what's going on, everybody? Morning? Sorry. I think my internet lagged out. I'm doing very well. It's good to see you, Matty. I hope you're doing great. I hope you and your family are doing well. And yes, we are super excited for the 3v3 extravaganza that's going down back at Disney, which is crazy because I started playing paintball in the 3v3 format, and now it's full circle. We're doing a 3v3 pro at Disney, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so let's jump into this three-man competition conversation. So we did one at the event in Cincinnati, and I do feel a little bit bad for X Factor, as it was X Factor versus Impact in the final, and X Factor wins that one. I believe the score was 4-2. Unfortunately, since it is just an hour time slot, and in order to shoehorn in as much paintball as we possibly could, Major League Paintball was only able to bring 4 teams, and they brought the top 4 teams. And X Factor is unfortunately ranked 6th overall. So even though they won the three-man, it would be cool to see them. We got to go with the overall standings through 3 events, which made it PB Fit, Red Legion, Dynasty, and Impact. So Impact is going to be matched up with PB Fit and Dynasty versus Legion. So 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 on the standings. But yeah, before we kind of get into the details, and it's going to be a slightly smaller field. Don't know what the layout's going to look like yet, or it's not public knowledge. But yeah, just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what you think about the three-man concept, how you felt it went down for you guys. Obviously, you guys did really good in Cincinnati, going all the way to the finals. But yeah, what are your thoughts on three-man?
I think it's going to be highly entertaining. And at the end of the day, we want to give the people a really good show. I think this kind of cuts out the bulk of the game that we see in the 5v5 format, which I have to state, I personally love, and also love 7v7, 10v10. I think that we need to support big paintball games as well as this new iteration that we're kind of moving into. But when we're talking about getting paintball onto a screen and having it be extremely digestible and malleable for somebody to play with in their mind and understand in their mind as they watch it, I think the 3v3 format is a great way to package this product. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting. We're going to have 2 pods, so it'll be 500 rounds that we're going to be having each. Obviously, no switching paint around. Everyone goes into the arena with 500 rounds on their back, and you got 10 minutes to get it done.
I mean, I don't know. I like all paintball, whether it's, 1 versus 1 or 2000 versus 2000. It's all awesome. I do think that three-man is a little bit easier to digest for a broader audience. I think the 5-man as well too. But yeah, whether it's one man, one-on-one, 3v3, 5 versus 5, 7-man was awesome, 10-man was awesome. Big games are awesome. It's just fun. Paintball is just fun, and it has its complexities at every level. Let's talk about how you perceive the tactics and strategy in the three-man. What's going on in your mind in preparation for this battle? Because it is a big deal. I mean, we're getting back on, ESPN is going to be on ESPN2, and which I think is an important part of what the league is trying to achieve. I mean, obviously, like when you look at what the UFC's done, they have their big pay-per-views. They partner with different networks throughout their incarnation of trying to push things into the mainstream with something that was niche. So I think it's pretty crucial here, and I'm excited for us to be back there, and I'm excited to put on the show, and I'm excited about the teams that are there. But as far as an athlete getting ready for this, as far as tactics and strategy, I mean, you don't have to give away too much, but I don't think it's a giant secret. But what are your thoughts on just what's going on in your head right now getting ready for this battle?
Yeah, I've been working my ass off out here in the desert, playing a lot of paintball, obviously training. I go to 2 different gyms and take my recovery and training very seriously. And I'm just very excited to play this style. It's a very creative style of paintball. And so is 5v5. There's a lot more tactic in the 5v5 in the first, let's say, 30 seconds to 2 minutes in controlling the field and being in control of the game and full awareness. And with 3v3, there's going to be holes. There's going to be moments in time where you can't watch everything. So there's going to be a lot of creative moves that we're going to see with 3v3 format. There's, 1/3 of the percentage is in each body. So 33% as opposed to 20. So you have a big advantage if you can get one elimination and have that up body situation. In a 3v3, it's pretty critical. And we see that happen as well with the 5v5 after maybe, like I said, 30 seconds to a minute to a minute and a half, it becomes a 3v3 or a 4v3 or a 2-on-4. And we get these kinds of fun situations. It's going to be really interesting to see all these top level players going at it. You're going to have, all your favorite players. Big shout out to X Factor. I wish they could be here as well. My hat goes off to them for how amazing that they always play and how they played out there in Ohio in the 3v3 tournament. But we're excited, man. ESPN is back with paintball, and it's going to be live for the first time ever in the history of our game. So this is a big moment, and we need everybody to show out and really support. Tell your friends and family, please. Like, tell everyone paintball is going to be live. I know it's going to be early, 7 a.m. on the West Coast, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. But please, everybody, go above and beyond. Send some text messages. Get people hyped for our sport. It's a big moment in the game right now.
Yeah, it is, because ratings matter, right? So if it shows up on TV and it does better than something else would do in that time slot, excuse me, then yeah, that's great for the game, because we would like to be able to make this a permanent fixture. We did it last year, and then here doing it again this year in a slightly different format. But yeah, 3v3 is interesting. Look at what happened at the last event. So you had a situation where the layout was pretty tactical and slow once we had the best in the business out there. And I mean, Impact was a great example of that. We'll get to that in a little bit once we, chop it up here about the 3-man battle that's going to be going down. Again, it's August 1st, guys, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 a.m. West Coast time. But when we went, watching the 3-man on Thursday, it was very fast. I mean, there was a ton of points that were being played. There was money at stake. So it's not like there was nothing at stake and guys were just, not really caring too much and flying all over the place. And it was I thought it was highly entertaining. I mean, the last time we saw I saw like a true 3-man competition, because we did a 3-man on TV for the WGN in Vegas for a long time, and that field was microscopic. So it was like car crash after car crash after car crash. So from a visual spectacle standpoint, it was interesting. From tactics and strategy, not as much. So then we go to a standard size layout, and yeah, man, it was really interesting to kind of see, because there's a lot of pressure on each one of those 3 players, because if you drop that body, it is a big disadvantage to go in then at 2-on-3. Well, we saw a decent amount of low body magic pulled off, and it was just fascinating to see the field played that offensively, that aggressively, even though that field was one of the slowest fields that I've seen in the past couple of years. And then we go to the 5-man, and just because there's those 2 extra guns out there, you got to worry about getting through gaps. So, I mean, you and I could spend hours talking about tactics and strategy, but I'm expecting it to be a rather fast-paced, fun version of paintball to put our best foot forward for the general public to consume. Let's talk a little bit about the matchup here in the semifinals. There's only 4 teams, so we're going right into the semis. Well, actually, before we kind of get to that, I mean, is there with limited paint, I think that also creates movement as well too, because, you know, no matter what the layout looks like, with the fact that there's only 10 minutes on the clock, and there is a stipulation, and I don't know if you got this memo yet, but it is, I think it's pretty crucial, because we have to be able to put those 3 games, and we're not running split deck. It's each game is going to be its own game, but we have to get those games in that hour. So if there is a tie game, when we go into that sudden death one-on-one, whichever team scored the quickest point has an advantage, meaning that the other team, so let's just say you guys go in and you guys scored the quickest point, and now it's you versus, you know, Seabaugh, or, you know, whoever they pull out, or probably Scott Stewart. Probably be Scott Stewart. He's their one-on-one champ right now. So it'd be you versus Scott Stewart. But Scott Stewart has to shoot you and hit the buzzer in 30 seconds. So, but I think that adds a level of aggression to it. I think it's a good hack to make sure that, because we can't run over time. It's an impossibility.
That's right.
So
yeah.
So I just so I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and on limited paint situation, that you can't just sit there and pump paint through a gap and hope the dude goes through it, because you only have 2 pods in a hopper.
Yeah, it's going to be quick. We're going to see a lot of movement, and I do love the fact that we have not a super condensed field like you were talking about. The first time that we did 3v3 was almost 20 years ago in Las Vegas, like you said, and it was a micro field, super tiny. Having this large layout is going to add to the creativity. You're going to see people using bunkers to block out their opponent and make ghost moves up the field and make big shots on players. It's going to add those wow moments, the wow, holy shit, did you see that move, or that one ball? You know, those types of things are going to be a spectacle for our game. We want to make it exciting. We want to make it something that we can be proud of and just go out there and give it our best. The paint situation definitely adds a component as well, because you, like I said, you got 500 shots. So you got to really play into the game of that and use that to your advantage to be successful. You're not going to be able to sit back and shoot the cuts. You got to make moves and be decisive on your movement and your awareness and what's going on out there.
So let's talk about your matchup. So you guys are taking on Fit. You're currently ranked 4th overall in the league, heading into event 4. So again, that's how we did it. You know, you got the number 1 team, top seed, PB Fit, and they earned that with those first 2 wins. And then, so, you know, I want to get your thoughts on Fit and then the roster. So I just actually got the rosters today, the final rosters, you know, barring some sort of major thing happening. Looks like you guys are bringing a pretty deep roster. It's Brandon Cornell, Justin Cornell, Tyler Harmon, Nick Laval, Tyler Panilio, Mike Urena, Dalton Vanderbilt, and Zach Yakimek. Deep. And then for PB Fit, it's going to be Scott Stewart, Chavez Cyrus, Jacob Seabaugh. So, you know, a decent core of their starting 5 going to be here for the 3-man, in addition to Jacob Johnson, who actually got some really good spins for him at the last event. He's a one-on-one champ as well, too. And then Johnny Lukau as well, too. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on this matchup? I mean, what are your thoughts on Fit? Does it change anything that it's 3v3, you know, instead of 5-on-5? What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I'll just say that's much more than just a decent core of the lineup. Those are all studs, absolute dogs, great paintball players, and they have a phenomenal team. They've been playing really good team paintball, and they have a good system. They understand the game. They understand the way it's supposed to be played, and they play with a lot of passion. And that's what it takes at the end of the day to be a great team. For anybody out there listening, you know, you come together and you do all the right things and you follow the process, you're going to have a great organization. So none of these teams in the top here, obviously, are any slouches. Everybody is hungry. Everyone wants to win, obviously. Fit has been playing phenomenal all season, and they've got 2 big wins. The boys are excited. You know, everybody can't wait to get out there. I think we're going to get out there Wednesday, early Thursday morning, check out the field, start looking at everything. We can't wait to see everybody and see the production crew and see this awesome stadium as well that we're playing in. You know, it's going to be a real special moment for the game. If you are in Florida, please show out. Drive however far you have to drive to come to the championship stadium out there at Disney World. And it would mean the world to us to see you guys out there. Also, there's a bunch of other sports. I'm sure, you know, people that aren't even involved in paintball that are there that weekend are going to fall in love with our game as well, just watching it. So we're excited, man. It's going to be great.
Have you guys come up with or had any team meetings about, you know, who the starting 3 is going to be? I mean, with Impact, you can kind of pull the starting three out of a hat. Is that going to maybe be a little, once you actually see the field, that's when you make that decision? How do you think that's going to work?
Yeah, we're gonna have probably some type of a rotation roll in, and obviously the hot guns are gonna roll. Whoever's getting it done, we're gonna make sure that we get out there and put our best foot forward to get the championship out there. That's above my pay grade. That's Dave Baines, baby. You do your thing, Dave.
Let me ask you this though, because I think this is how important do you think having that, the advantage, if it is tied, would be? I mean, how hard do you think it is to have to win a 30-second one-on-one with the tournament at stake? I mean, do you think that's super
It's
doable?
not easy.
Yeah, I mean, just, because it is definitely an advantage, because if you're sitting, if I was playing that situation, obviously been in a lot of one-on-ones over time, I'm thinking, okay, but you also don't want to let that advantage alter how much you're actually engaging, because if you hide too much in a one-on-one, it will allow your opponent to be able to get lost and make moves you can't see, and that could actually kind of come to bite you in the end. So I mean, as you're approaching that, I just think it's from a story standpoint, if it does end up tied, I mean, I'm even thinking about this when we do the show as to how much of an advantage that is actually going to give the person that that's in that situation, and then the mindset of the other person, because we've never done it that way before. So this is kind of going to be a little bit of a new one, but I think it's good because we can't go to multiple one-on-ones, with the way, to put 3 games into an hour and not have it be split deck, because a split deck exists because we have to shoehorn 20 teams into 3 days. So it's tough to tell 2 stories at the same time. We just should not be doing that on network television. So I'm glad we're doing it that way. But then you have to start having these discussions like, okay, well, we cannot run over. How do we actually make this a reality and put all of this action into, a 1 hour time block? And I think that's a good way to do it. But yeah, so what are your thoughts? I mean, how much of an advantage do you think that actually is?
Yeah, it's going to be mind games out there. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, you can't pigeonhole yourself in any way in this game. If your opponent has an advantage in the cerebral aspect and they already understand what you're going to do, that's a monumental advantage in paintball for not only how you approach the field, how you make shots off the break, how you make your secondaries. If your opponent has the drop on you in any way, they're going to use that to their advantage. So you have to be really smart how you play those situations. The person having to press with 30 seconds, that's not an easy job. You are at a disadvantage and you're going to have to fight and make a great shot in order to win that, and do something really smart in order to win that situation. That's all there is to it. And I got to say, hats off to you and the crew and everybody working their ass off to make all these things happen on the back end. We got some really cool stuff cooking up as well to debut alongside the show that has been worked on, and you all are working tirelessly. So Matty, I know even at the tournaments, bro, like my head would just be screaming after commentating for 19 hours straight. So hats off to you for everything you do, man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I mean, I love the sport, and the stories must be told, the game must be analyzed, and we've done this for a long time. I don't know, man, I really think paintball is something special, and I think that as the years go by, it becomes more special to me, because, and people have listened to me talk about this on podcasts, so I'm not going to wax too philosophical on it right now, because I got you here in the seat, and I know you got a heart out, you got to take off, you're a busy man as well too. But yeah, as the world, especially and paintball's for everyone. It's great for women. I mean, even kids now with 50 cal. And I mean, I wish I had all these different force on force gunfighting fun options when I was a child. All we had was BB guns. And those plastic disc shooters and rocks with slingshots, and wrist rockets. But so it's just cool. But I mean, we're human beings. We are Homo sapiens. We are just the smartest apes on the planet, but we are apes. And so there is a little bit of an edge that the world needs ground down in order for civilization to thrive. But paintball is a thing where you can go out and you need that edge, and it is to your benefit to utilize that thing that exists in you. And you can kind of purge that a bit. So when you go back to being a dad, or you go back to a regular job, and I just think it's a giant boost. It allows you to get that adrenaline into your veins to be in a very stressful situation where at the end of the day is actually super safe. I mean, yeah, occasionally guys will, guys that go really hard, occasionally will dislocate a shoulder or, hurt an ankle or a knee or something, and if you do it long enough, like, yeah, man, you're throwing your body around. But it's not like MMA where dudes are going to, like, you watch a card in mixed martial arts and half those dudes are going to the hospital, so it's kind of a cool thing that everyone can do. So I love doing it. And yeah, does feel like we're moving mountains sometimes behind the scenes to pull all this stuff off. And then at the end of the day, when we go live, it looks like it's seamless. That's the whole point, right? I mean, it's the same thing with you guys, right? It's like you spend time in the gym, you spend time when it's 110 out in Arizona, grinding, doing drills that aren't super fun. It's not fun to shoot targets for hours on end and, work on just movements. But, when you watch Tom Brady, you think Tom Brady was still doing drills at 44? Hell yeah. You think Mookie Betts is catching grounders? Absolutely. You have to do these fundamental things. But and then when you show up, it looks like it's second nature. So yeah, man, I just but yeah, the show's looking good. I'm pretty excited about the team that we got. It's gonna be cool. Got Tom Martinez doing commentary alongside me in the booth. Mike Jeffrey will be doing some sideline reporting.
Hold on. T Money's back. Let's go, baby. That's groundbreaking news.
He's back. Yeah, so we got Tom Martinez going to be doing the commentary alongside me. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, Tyler. I'm excited about the teams that we have. I think, again, I do feel bad for X Factor that they just won the 3-man. But hey, dude, they're 6th and you guys are 4th overall. We had to take the top 4 and all top 4 could go. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm just pretty excited about a lot of the things that are happening. Regional paintball is looking good too. I think it's just looking healthy, because when we were coming up, we were kind of the first group of kids that came through. Because when I started playing pro, at 16, there was a bunch of grown men that had regular big boy jobs and they just loved playing the game, and that was paintball, right? And then as paintball kind of exploded and tons of companies were like, oh, paintball, and it kept having this exponential growth as it grew to some sort of stasis, and it still has grown. But anyway, it was kind of a bunch of kids that were always looking for a handout, like on the pro teams, or kids that couldn't afford it. But we were like, oh, this kid's pretty talented and we got good sponsorship, so let's see if he's going to be something. But now you go to the divisional ranks, when you go to like a WCPPL or, MVPS or whatever, you go to these pretty healthy regional series, UXSBL, it's a bunch of guys and girls too that, that basically have good jobs and they just love paintball because of the things that I just mentioned. It's a special, unique activity and sport that doesn't really exist in a lot of other ways. So I think that's pretty healthy, so I kind of like where we're going on a lot of these fronts. One of the things I do tell, we have to temper our expectations sometimes. I mean, obviously I got big expectations and have had for years. I wouldn't be doing this job. But one of the things that I tell the teams that I coach, people that I work with, there's that phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day, but I've added to that is like, but best believe they were putting bricks in the walls every single day. So, just things take time, and just got to keep that in mind. So let's jump into the other side of the bracket here, Tyler, because, you and I could go off about this forever, unless you got something else for me before we jump into Legion versus Dynasty.
I was just going to say the community is so strong right now in regards to divisional paintball. The youngsters that are coming up in the game, talent-wise, are far more talented than I was when I was, 12 or 11, just starting out in the game. When I see these youngsters out there, it's amazing to see the fundamentals are dialed in, the moving and shooting, the communication, all these principles that we've been hounding and working on for so many years as part of these pillars of the game that make you a great paintball player. So keep up the great work, and thank you to everybody in the community at your local fields and stores who help make sure everyone has a good experience when they go out to the field and continue to tell people about this game. It takes all of us to make this thing work. So let's keep doing all the good work out there.
Yeah, absolutely. But to your point, that's why I think it's, barring some major cataclysm on the gigantic, level, the zombie apocalypse or something, I think we're good to go. Just because people see what a blessing it does give, I mean, it's like, yeah, it's expensive to play this sport at the divisional level, but golf's expensive, riding motorbikes. Well, there's lots of expensive things you can do, but this is just a kind of a special creature, which I really dig. Sure. So let's jump into this one here. So it's Dynasty and Russians. So Dynasty is the one interesting thing about Dynasty's roster is no Ryan Greenspan, no Yosh Rao. They are going to have Alex Frazier, but then they got the rest of their guys: Harrison Fry, Joe Barrett, Arturo Andrade, Blake Yarber, Danny Schonauer, and Kyle Berry. And then that was kind of I was wondering with Legion, because Legion has had a little bit of a hard time getting their guys over occasionally. And the blessing for them is that once they picked up Justin Rabikoff to complement that starting four they had, they were lights out last year, won the series title by a country mile. They were on fire until Fit rose up and became the best team at World Cup. But they have a pretty good core, so they have what I'm guessing the starting three. They'll probably be going between so they got Justin Rabikoff, they have Kirill Pridney, they got Pavel Karslev, and they got Malloy, Alexander Burtnikov. So I'm guessing that they'll be going between those guys for the most part, depending. But they're also bringing Jamison Stanton and Alberto Vasquez, and both those dudes have had a couple good looks and limited spins. So I do like that roster. So what do you think? Who do you think makes that out of that bracket? You think it's going to be Dynasty? You think it's going to be Russians? And then give me your thoughts on those two squads.
Damn, that's going to be an absolute dogfight in that game. Both outstanding lineups, heavy hitters. I got to give a shout out to my boy Blake Yarber. I think Blake's my favorite paintball player in the league. The dude is just an absolute monster. Love his mindset. Love the way he approaches things, and always rooting for that guy. And on the other side over there, Russia, J-Rab's been playing out of his mind. Dude's an absolute animal. We've been running alongside each other since the beginning, since the beginning of time in this. It feels like just yesterday we started, but it's been well over 20 years that we've been playing paintball. And him and that lineup, I mean, the Russians are scary. The Red Legion has a dominant team, and they understand, like we talked about earlier, how to play the situations, how to dominate the field and control the opponent, which is what it takes to win at the highest level. You have to be in control, and they're really, really good at switching up styles. So they can go from one style to a completely new style in the blink of an eye, and that is what it takes to win championships. You got to have multiple styles in the bag, no different than a fighter. When they go into a fight, has to have multiple styles in their bag in order to dominate their opponent and control the situations. So I love the similarities, and I love how closely we are kind of, I know we're not getting punched in the mouth. Sometimes it feels like it when I get shot in the face from point blank, I get bloody lips and all that stuff. Sure. But it feels like there's so many similarities to fighting and paintball. Even the styles of the way that we hold our marker is kind of like you go southpaw, you switch back up, and you have to really engage in these unique battles. So it has so many similarities. So it's cool to see that we also have, some of the most badass dudes from the UFC along on the ride helping us. They understand the vision. They have a really good idea of how everything works, and have also been a part of paintball, which is pretty cool, for a very long time. So shout out to my boys, Brett and Mike, out there working their butts off. And yeah, dude, it's going to be really cool to see them duke it out. I'm going to have to, just with the way the standings have been going, I think Russia is favored, but don't sleep on Dynasty. They have a deep roster. Even though they're missing Ryan and Yosh, all those paintball players know how to play paintball, and they've come together, obviously, as we've seen throughout the season, to play some pretty big moments and win those big moments. So it's going to be a dogfight. I'm really excited to see that match.
Yeah, me too. And I got to go with you as well, too. I think the smart money's on Legion. They're coming off a win. The one interesting thing, though, is it is slightly different, right? It's not 5 versus 5, but they play 5 versus 5 in our standard format, kind of like a lot of teams would play 3-man. They are the most aggressive team in the league. And yeah, styles make fights, and styles make gunfights as well, too, exactly like you broke down, Tyler. So yeah, they play 5-man like everyone else plays 3-man. So I think that's not going to be much of a transition for them. Dynasty, it would be close. As far as the odds would be concerned, I don't think it's not quite a pick 'em, but the odds would be very close if you're putting real money on it. Dynasty coming off a 6th place. They're ranked 3rd overall, but even with a little decent drastic change in their lineup from 2024 to 2025, come right out the gate, make it into the finals, take a 2nd, then a top 4, 4th place, and then 6th at the last one. But yeah, and I mean, and then I couldn't. I mean, Blake is also one of my favorite dudes in the league. I'm obviously a little biased because he's a SoCal guy, and I've also spent days in the backcountry with Blake. If you ever want, like, Blake would be great in the zombie apocalypse. Blake would have been great as a cowboy. Like, I've been on 50-mile hikes over 12,000 foot peaks with Blake Yarber. That dude is an absolute savage out there. When I say savage, I mean, like, he'll put 40 pounds on his back. He'll be the first dude up the mountain and then be there already ready tending camp by the time that you drag your ass into after a 9-mile day over 2 peaks. And he'll be out, have a smile on his face, whittling a piece of wood. Hey, what's up, man? How you feeling? How you doing? You know, I've already made the fire. Blake's great, dude. Blake's great. I mean, that dude I've never seen him. I mean, he gets hyped up and he can be very intense, but I've just never seen him have an ill word at an ill-timed moment. Meaning he just doesn't lose his cool. Again, he will get very intense, and he has a beast that lives inside him for sure, which is one of the reasons he's so good at the game. But Blake could to feast with the way that Yosh has been playing this year. That I think one of the reasons that Dynasty is doing so well is that Yosh Rao is having a career year. Another dude that's a beast in the mountains, been on pretty much all. I don't think I've been on a big pack trip without Yosh Rao. And then Blake's an absolute savage, and Yosh is having a career year. The combo of Blake, whoever they put up the middle, has been feasting for them. So I think that's one of the keys to how well they've done and why they're ranked 3rd overall. But I still think that the Russians got to edge them out a little bit as far as if I were making the odds, but I think it still would be close. Well, we got a little bit of time left here, Tyler, before I got to let you go, and just wanted to throw a couple more questions at you. I mean, there was, so AC Diesel's been having some struggles. They're going to have 2 guys suspended with the altercation that happened at the end of their shot game, at the end of the prelims. So then Kyle Spica ends up getting cut, and then Alex Goldman decides to take an offer from Tampa Bay Damage. So what are your thoughts on that predicament? Because that does put Diesel down a couple bodies. So, I mean, essentially from the roster we saw, and it's interesting too. And, I also want to get your thoughts on this upcoming event and your bracket before I let you go. We got about 15 minutes left, because we could talk about this for a long time. I mean, you've been through everything, Tyler. You've been on, lots of top teams. You've seen players come and go. You've been one of those players. You've been on the team while a player goes. It's a big name. You've been through all this before, all the behind the scenes stuff that has to go down to get guys on teams. You've been there, done that. You're still doing it at the highest level. So you probably have a pretty unique insight to this, and not to, talk out of the campfire here, to use that metaphor, and let people know things that, maybe you have had some confidence in. Somebody's got confidence in you to not talk out of shot, but still, what do you think the mindset here is? What do you think Diesel needs to do? Because honestly, they had been on a pretty decent run for them with a team that was stacked up with some talent, a good core talent that they brought in. And then World Cup was pretty solid for them until they kind of had that implosion against Fit. And then they start the year losing some close battles on Sunday, 8th and a 9th. And then all of a sudden this, really bad event where they had a 20th. And then Kyle, he gets cut. And then again, Mouse goes to Damage. So, and then they got 2 dudes suspended, 1 for 2 games and 1 for 3 games. So they're in a bit of a predicament. So maybe talk me through what you think, what your thoughts are on Diesel. And then give me what you think, because Damage is locking up, man. They got Keith Brown and Mouse now on the same team. Looking pretty good.
Yeah, potent. Absolutely potent. And yeah, I did not see the last couple months on my bingo card when I set sail this year in the beginning of the season. But I think that Diesel is going to have to dig deep right now. They're going to have to really come together, closer than they've ever come together, to make sure that they can solidify a performance out there going into the event in Texas. It is home turf for them. They have that climate advantage. They know, obviously, the way that Texas is, it's going to be hot. There's no doubt about it out there. And they've just got to make sure that they stay positive through this moment and stay focused and not be swayed by everything that's going on. Obviously, Damage is bolstered right now. They're looking amazing. Marcelo, Mouse, and the rest of the crew that is already there is world class. Some of the best players that we've ever seen play paintball in Damage. Some of the smartest players, the most dominant, like we were talking about earlier. So they have a powerhouse squad. And it's going to be interesting to see how they can fare. I'm not sure if they're going to pick up any new players for Diesel going into the next tournament. I think it would be smart to try to get one or two, even if it's just like, maybe they're not ready, but they become ready in the moment. Kind of that's how it happens sometimes, So if there's someone out there in the Diesel camp, it might be your time to shine. And we hopefully will see them add at least one or possibly two players, because if I'm not mistaken, they have like 5 right now. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just looking at the roster. So yeah, Baginski's suspended for 3 games, I believe. And then you got Silos, Mouse is no longer there. You got BJ, you got Clint, you got Jared, and you got Jesse. If you add in Mark, who's also going to be suspended for 2 games, that was 6. And then so they essentially have 5 guys to get him through those games. And I agree with you, Tyler. I think that basically Mark has 2 options. Mark Johnson, he's obviously, he's paying dudes. Mouse was making some really legit money. So he either has to go after someone else, go after a star, try to get them out of their camp, or like you said, he's got to go into his camp and pick who you think the best divisional guy is in your area up, or like maybe even 2 of them, and give them a chance. You always want to keep your eyes on a few of those bodies. You just never know what's going to happen out here, and this could be a big moment for them. But yeah, I mean, could they do it with 5? Sure. Is that ideal? Absolutely not. We don't know how hot it's going to be at that tournament. It's going to be Texas. It's going to be late summer. It could be 100 degrees when we're out there in Texas. So now, yeah, they're Texans and they're used to playing in that heat, but I think it would definitely benefit them to pick up at least 1 body, possibly 2, whether that's pulling somebody you're paying, to go off and offer them some money to come out of their situation. Or picking up somebody from either semi-pro or one of the higher divisions that you've had your eyes on for a little bit. Those are, realistically, that's their situation right now, and try to keep everyone else happy.
Yeah.
Because losing, Kyle hadn't been playing a ton, but Kyle had some good looks in 3-man. He's had some good looks in 5-man, but he was a kind of part of the brain trust of the team. And obviously Mouse is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And on any given day, he's the best dude out there, which is why he keeps getting the salary he gets. This is a keep what you kill Survivor Island environment, man. This is a merit-based brotherhood. So, and he's earned what that right to be in that situation, getting those big paychecks, because he's had so many big moments, and he is a force multiplier for any team. So now with damage, now it becomes more of a playtime issue, right? So when you are, and this is kind of with Impact, right? It's like maybe you could talk to this or talk on this a little bit. Is that how hard is it when you are on because Impact's an all-star team. Like, you don't get on Impact unless the caveat to this is Tyler Cornelio, who Dave Baines told me where I played 10-man with Cap. I can't remember, we took like 3rd or something in a 10-man, and to fill the roster out, he's like, "Oh, Matty, I got this up-and-coming kid named Tyler. He's a football player in high school. He's only 17. This kid's going to be an absolute savage." So he's from Dave's home field, and Dave was the caretaker of this really talented kid, and now he's been on the team for a little bit. Other than that, to get on Impact, you have had to crush it for another team for a little bit, become an all-star to get that call from either Dave or Bart in the offseason. So you guys are stacked up with talent as well too. And it's just kind of one of those situations where if you got 9 all-stars on the team or 10 all-stars on the team, but only 5 can play at once, then playing time will become an issue, complete opposite from where Diesel's kind of at right now. Maybe talk me through that, because that's damage. You got to go between Keith Brown, and obviously Ride the Hot Hand is on the tips of anyone's tongue in this situation. But still, it's tough to kind of be there mentally sometimes, because if it's an event, like if you're used to being an all-star and crushing it and getting noticed and playing every single point and being the guy, and then you go onto an all-star team, and for whatever reason at that tournament, you are not the guy. Maybe you were at the last event, but this one you're not. So now you're filling pods and wiping off hits. Like, you have to flip that switch in your brain. How does that work for you?
Yeah, you got to be humble. And first of all, I got to say, shout out to Tyler. That kid's a dog. He's working his ass off all the time out there at Capital Edge, and big ups to Cap Edge as well. It's not an easy thing. You got to be selfless, and you got to check your ego at the door. Put the team first always, and do whatever it takes to win. And that's a tough job for the coach to make sure that you also keep your horses that are in the stable running as well. So maybe it looks a little bit something like you have a starting lineup and you run them a couple points. Hopefully they get those couple points, and then you allow the other players as well to get spins, because we're going to need everybody. If you're going to win a tournament, you are going to need every piece of the puzzle slamming and hitting the table and making moves. So it's definitely not an easy job. The guys also need to be, everyone's working hard. When the coach sees that, everyone's working hard, everyone's coming together, being selfless. It makes it a lot easier on them to make good decisions. And if everyone's chipping in and giving good information, whether you're playing or not, like I don't care if I'm on the field. I want to win. If that looks like me filling pods and wiping players down and telling them, hey, this guy's diving into his bunker this way and then coming this way, or they're choosing to shoot two guns this way and move like this, whatever it takes is what we're going to do to win as a team, because it's team first paintball always. So I know it's not easy. Good players have bad games. Maybe the sleeper that we didn't expect to stunt is going to go out there and you're like, holy shit, they won us the tournament. You just don't know how it's going to go. And you've got to make sure that all the horses in the stable are ready. They're positive. They have the right intention. They have the right mindset. And we're working in the same direction, everybody on one page. And if you can formulate that kind of chemistry and that reality in the pits, it's going to go a long way.
So a couple more minutes before I got to let you go here. I want to get your final thoughts, and I want them to be on your bracket for the upcoming event in Texas. This one's going down September 11th through the 14th. It's going to be the fourth event. Fourth events are interesting because now you start to have series title implications. It's double points for cup. If you can have a really good showing at the fourth event, it can put you in a position, depending on what happens to your competitors, to be in a chance to shoot for that series title. That's kind of where Impact's at. Because if you guys, with your roster, I mean, Bart and Dave went really hard in the offseason to try to put a competitive roster up. You lose Marcelo, roster is still absolutely filthy. The envy of the league. There's not many teams out there that are looking at their roster being like, no, I'm good with this. Like, I'd trade out your right. I mean, every other team's like, okay, yeah, give me Impact's roster. Look at this roster. It's insane. And you guys have had a pretty consistent year, but it has been close to 3 years since you guys have put a win on the board. 2022 was the last one, but you've had tons of podiums, tons of thirds, tons of seconds, lots of finals appearances. You're right there. So you are going to be playing the Tauntauns, Aftershock, Sea Dogs, and New York Extreme. Your thoughts on this bracket?
Yeah, Tauntauns have been playing amazing, obviously, back-to-back finals. We had Axel on PTG. And shout out to everybody that tunes into PTG. Thank you so much for supporting. We're actually having a goat party show next week. So if you want to check out the community, go to the website and you can join our little community there. But the Axel episode was amazing. Just one of the hardest working paintball players and so inspiring to talk to. I'm really lucky, as we're in kind of the same lifestyle where we get to talk with a bunch of people, and it's just such a blessing and a treat to hear other people's thoughts. So shout out to Axel. Been rooting for you, bro. And obviously, if we're playing against each other, I want to take the dub. But in those finals, I was definitely rooting for you to win that, man. And the Tauntauns are just such a great organization. They just picked up Fedorov, who is extremely hungry. My brother, we played on Heat, and is one of my greatest sparring partners. It's almost like Dragon Ball Z style when you step into the arena with this guy and you're like, damn, this guy can hit, and we're both going at it, playing 1v1s. Fedorov is just an absolute monster. So happy to see him doing really well over there with the Tauntauns. And moving into Shock, Shock is obviously hungry. They have not got the performance that they've wanted out of the events. So I know that they're working their asses off. We were actually in Chicago playing with them out there, and they have a great team. It's like we talked about, it's about putting all the puzzle pieces together, getting everyone on the same page, but they're a hungry organization and they all work really, really hard to be the best that they can. So that's going to be a gritty game. Always, kind of wild, even practicing them, because it's no secret. They like to shoot the paint. You know what I mean? It gets a little bit wild and it's fun and it's entertaining, but it's such a great group. And with Todd Martinez at the helm, they're in the right direction. The Todd squad is strong, so they're working really hard. And then we got the Sea Dogs, who are obviously working their butts off and have had some good showings actually at the last couple events. They're looking really strong. The squad is from the north. I actually was able to go up there and see them years ago and kind of get eyes on that camp before they were able to go pro. And they have one of the best facilities and training areas that you could ask for. Obviously, it gets kind of cold, but they're all working really hard. That's going to be a gritty fight. Can't wait to play those guys. And then New York, one of my favorite pro teams of all time, is always going to be a great show. They got the boys out there, and I know they're up in the East Coast. Now that, once again, it comes back to a lot of like weather stuff too for these teams that play in the North and the East Coast. It's hard to train in the wintertime. So you really got to be putting in those extra hours in the gym, in the indoor arenas when it's snowing out there. But dude, they're all dogs. And that's the cool thing about the players in the pro league right now. It is such a competitive landscape. You cannot sleep on anybody. I don't hold anybody in my mind any differently than any other team. They all have guns and they're all trying to win, and they're all trying to play the best paintball that they possibly can. So we have to do that same thing and bring our A game every time we step on the field. Everyone wants to beat Impact. It's no secret. Everyone probably wants to see us lose too. It's just like the way sports are. And I'm not stupid to these realities. It just is the way it is. And we look forward to these competitive games. It's an amazing thing that we're able to do. Super blessed, super grateful to be able to sit here with you, Matty, and be a part of this paintball community. We just want to make sure we keep putting our best foot forward, playing good paintball, and spreading the good word.
Well, you guys are you've been spreading the good word for a long time. I love what you and Marcelo have been doing with Play the Game. That is a really cool thing that you guys have been doing. And it's like one of those secret blessings of COVID is that it brought us, some guys into the storytelling and kind of letting people behind the curtain element, which I just absolutely love that. So I really appreciate that, as I've been doing that for a long time. So I just love that you guys are, helping carry the torch. But my last thoughts real quick on your bracket. I think this is a sneakily difficult bracket. Tauntauns, obviously, with 2 finals appearances in the last 2 events, they're on the precipice of a victory here. They're looking really good. I love that roster, and I love the way they play the game. They're entertaining. Shock making Sunday for the first time at the last event. That is a scrappy, hungry paintball team. So I think we're probably going to potentially see the best paintball we've seen all year out of them at the 4th event. And then the Sea Dogs had an interesting story at the last event because they lose to Damage, they lose to Dynasty. Relatively close games. A little bit closer to Damage than it was to Dynasty. Then they put 2 points on the board in day 1. And then the Sea Dogs show up on day 2 and don't let their opponent score a point. They beat Aftermath 4-0, and then they beat Arsenal with their Arsenal's got a legit roster. I like Arsenal a lot too. And they beat up on Arsenal 5-0. And then they drew Aftershock and got shut out by them in their first finals appearance as pros. But in the New York Extreme also, I like the talent they have on that roster too. You do have a mix of young, hungry threats and then some vets that have been around for a while. So I think that is a pretty sneakily difficult bracket. And I am looking forward to seeing, obviously you guys are still favorites. You guys are the Tauntauns are still the favorite to make it out of there, but we could see a wild card come out of that bracket, but that's going to be a fun one to watch. So again, Tyler, thank you so much. I know I got to let you go. Thank you for everything you've done for this sport. Thank you for everything you're continuing to do for this sport. So watch Tyler and his boys play on ESPN2 as they take on Fit. It's going to be going down August 1st at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And then also mark